going through today. Hi friends, welcome back. My name is Addie of Well Loved Clothing, where we love vintage, secondhand, upcycling, and anything that just makes us feel amazing in our own skin. And so today I am going to do something so fun, and if you can't tell by my discreetly placed sewing machine, we are doing a thrift flip today. We are actually going to be doing quite a lot of thrift flips today. So this is a little different than my normal thrift flips. I love thrift flips because I can take pieces that are secondhand and make them really fit me or really fit my style while still keeping my closet super sustainable, and it also helps me to update pieces that maybe I don't wear anymore. So it keeps the same pieces in my wardrobe, and as I've said so many times before, the most sustainable piece is the one you already own. But today we are not doing any super drastic changes. I wanted to just do some tiny updates to some pieces, well really a lot of pieces. It's like, I don't even know. I'll just show you the pile. So it's this big old pile that we're going through today, and it is just taking a hem up, taking pants in, adjusting the shape of something, taking a sleeve up. Really, we're just going to make things fit me and fit my style so that I'll wear them all the time. I've been wanting to do this kind of video for a little while. One, because I think it will finally force me to actually do these edits on these pieces, but I also just hope that this encourages you that you can get something that maybe doesn't fit exactly right, or you love the pattern of and kind of the shape, but it needs a couple tweaks, and either take it to a tailor or learn just some really simple techniques, because these are all pretty simple, just straight stitch kind of projects, but they make a huge difference, and they just kind of tailor your clothes to fit you more, which will help you to build a secondhand wardrobe and an even more sustainable wardrobe. And so we're finally going to do this and I'm super excited. So I'm going to show you each piece and just what I'm thinking about changing it, and then we'll walk through just the changes that I'm making to make it fit me better. So let's get started on this giant pile. Okay, so I love these jeans. They're so cute. I've been looking for a pair of wide legs for a long time and just recently found these. But the only thing is they're like one size, maybe 1.5 too big. And it's kind of like a look with them being a little lower, but it's a little too 90s for me, and I want them to fit up around my waist. So I need to take about, I want to say, 2 inches? I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's about 2 inches right there. And so I'm just gonna do 2 darts right here. There are several ways I could do it, by taking the waistband off or whatever. And if it was more fabric than I need to take off currently, I would probably do the whole waistband thing. But right now, I am just going to do 2 little darts. So let's do it.
Yes, you shall. When it gets you, yeah.
The first thing I need to do is figure out how much fabric I actually need to take out of these jeans. So I'm just grabbing a bunch. It doesn't really matter where you do this, because I just need to figure out how much I'm taking out. So once I've grabbed that bunch, I'm pinning on the front side and the back side, since the denim was too thick to get the pin all the way through, and then measuring the space between the 2 pins. So I really need to take out about 3.5 to 3 3/4 inches from this waistband. Now that I know my measurement, I can start taking in those darts at the back. So I'm flipping my jeans inside out and measuring from the center belt loop to the next closest belt loop, just to make sure that my spacing of these darts is the same on both sides. So once I have that pinned, that is going to be the center point of this dart that I'm making. So if I need to get rid of 3.5 inches, then each dart needs to be 1.75 inches total, which then I cut that in half because I'm going from a center point. So each side from the center point needs to be 7/8 of an inch. So once I have those measured out, I'm going to fold it along that center point and match my 2 pins up, and that is the beginnings of my dart. Since I don't want a weird buckle situation right underneath the waistband, I'm going to bring this dart down into a V shape behind the pocket. So I'm pinning a line down about 6 inches, tapering off, making sure to not get the pocket in my pins, because I don't want the pocket to be a part of this dart. I'm repeating that same process on the other side where the second dart's going to go. And just to make a note, when you're doing this dart down the side, make sure that your seams are going to match up so it looks like it's supposed to be there. The way that I like to do this this is pinning on either side and down the middle of the seams just to make sure they don't wiggle while I sew. While keeping these jeans inside out, I'm trying them on just to make sure that they'll still fit. It's better to try them on than to have to rip the seam out later. And then I'm taking them to my sewing machine and just doing a straight stitch down that side using a specific needle and thread for denim. I also like to back stitch over the thicker pieces just to make sure that they're fortified. So where those seams are, I'm back stitching. And once I complete both sides, these jeans are done.
Oh my gosh, these fit absolutely perfectly. I've never done this kind of thing with jeans, but I think the pockets on the back hide those seams really nicely because under here would like buckle a little bit if it didn't have the pockets. And so they just stick out a teeny bit, so I might take them in with just a little seam to just make them lay flat. But I kind of like it with the bagginess of the jeans. And this is just so perfect, and I love that they fit so well now with that tight waist and those really wide legs. So let's keep flipping some pieces.
If you want some, just let me know.
Okay, I have always been in love with this dress. I love the way it fits and the skirt. The colors are so beautiful. And I got this dress from a fellow YouTube pal, Kavina, and it is just so pretty, but I want to update it and change it a little bit because I just don't grab for it right now, and I think if it was a little bit shorter, I would. So I'm just going to hem it maybe 3 or 4 inches up, but I also don't know if I want to change the sleeves. I think the sleeve makes it that much more vintage, but I also think if I just had the sleeve a little bit shorter, I might wear it more often because the elbow tight is just not super me, but I love this dress, so let's update it so I'll wear it now.
If you need some, just tell me so.
So first things first, we have to measure how much I want to take this dress up. So I'm just kind of folding it and playing with it. The best way that I like to do this is to fold it up however short I think I want to go and then pin it just to the dress. This doesn't have to look pretty. It's just kind of to get a gauge on where I want it to be. So once I have the length figured out, I am measuring from the hem to where I folded it and marking that space with a pin. A plus of this plaid, that's a tongue twister, is that it has these straight lines along the whole hem. And so usually I would mark a hem like this to cut, but I'm not going to for this one since it basically has markings with those lines. So I'm cutting about 1 inch below the pin to leave space for a rolled hem, and then just cutting all the way around that hem and cutting and cutting. And then doing the same thing to the lining, about 1 inch shorter than the pin so it really won't show underneath this hem. So once I have it cut, I'm taking it to my iron and we're going to do a rolled hem. So I'm rolling up about 1/4 inch and then rolling up a little more than 1/4 inch and ironing that flat and then pinning it down all the way around the skirt to give us a really nice finish on this hem. Repeat the same process for a rolled hem on the lining and then sew the lining down and then sew along the pin line of the hem. I use the 3/8 marker on my machine to make sure that I had a consistent stitch around the whole dress. And the hem was complete, but I messed around with the sleeves for a minute to see if I wanted to change them up and decided not to, so this dress was done.
Mama, just a female and a mama. You should see the fellas reaching for a little of my smoocher. If you want some,
Okay, so this dress really was mainly taken up in that length. I decided to not do any sewing on the sleeves because I can roll them and they stay up where I want, but then if I want maybe that vintagey kind of feel, I can roll them back down. So it keeps it a little more versatile, but really this length changes absolutely everything for me. I'm pretty short, and so I feel like when I have a midi length dress, especially with that high long waist, just makes me feel really good, and I love that it still kept the puffy flowiness of the skirt. But I will now wear this year round, so let's keep on flipping. Okay, love this set. The color on this set is just gorgeous, but it has this beautiful little texture going on too. And I've had this set for a couple of months and I just haven't worn it yet. I've like tried to do the tuck up thing, tied it, tuck it in, and it's just one of those fabrics that doesn't do that super well. And so I also think that this shirt is just a little oversized and I want it to be a little more fitted. So my plans are to just kind of crop it, take it in a little maybe. Once I crop it, we'll see. But I'm definitely going to take out the shoulder pads. But it's just such a cute little set and perfect for spring, so I'm excited to get this one done. So let's do it.
Taking this flip off, trying on the piece, and marking where I want that crop to be. I don't want it to be too far away from that third button. Or else it will gape. So I'm kind of roughly pinning where I think I'm going to cut it, and then messing around with the sleeves because I'm not sure if I'm going to change them yet, but it always helps to go ahead and pin it. So once I have that pinned, I'm laying it flat and measuring down from there about a 1/2 inch. And this piece once again has great lines all the way across the garment with this amazing texture. So I'm just using those as my marker and cutting across the shirt. With the chop complete, I'm flipping it inside out and taking it to my iron so that I can make this hem. So we're doing a rolled hem once again, and I'm rolling it up a 1/4 inch and then a 1/4 inch again, ironing that flat and pinning it so it stays nice and secure. I did a quick double check to make sure that when I button it, it is the same length on either side, and we were good to go. I can then pick my thread color, and when I pick thread colors, I like to go just a little bit darker than the garment color, because since it's just one piece of thread, it does lighten up kind of when you sew. So once I picked the perfect thread color, I took it to my machine and sewed it down, and then I tried it on just to see what it looked like and decided that I wanted to give it a couple of darts and folds. So I did a little fold over, almost knife pleat on the front hem to just give it a little bit of an apron feel, and then I pinned in the back too, and those were just going to be standard darts. So once I had all of that pinned, I laid it flat just to make sure that it was going to match on either side and be symmetrical. Then took it to my machine to sew all of those down, and this cute little set is done.
Okay, this turned out so dang cute. I am loving how super cropped this shirt is, and the texture on it is so much fun. So as you saw, I just cropped it up a little, and then I took it in some so it wasn't super gapey. But I am really loving this super short crop. It just feels very vintage still, and I still couldn't really decide if I wanted to take the sleeve up or not. But this is just a really fun way to kind of modernize some pieces, give you some more layering pieces too, because this can go over, under, anything. But I love the little 2-piece set, and this is probably going to be like a spring staple for me because it's just that fun little pop of skin and fun color and everything good. So I'm loving this. Let's keep thrift flipping. Okay, I got this dress because I love the flowiness of it and just the cute little yoke up here with these little ruffles. I thought it would be the perfect summery dress, especially kind of beachy dress, but it is a little long for me, and the straps kind of droop lower than I want them to. I think maybe they got stretched out because you can just kind of see it's like a little droopier than I prefer up here. I still think it's very cute, but I want to see if I can bring it, either take it in right here or take it up in the straps. But I'm probably going to have to hem it just like once anyway, and I think it will be so cute once I do that. So let's change this one up too.
So if you haven't guessed by now, whenever I'm pinning something, it's pretty rough just to get a fit, and then I go back to it and figure out how it actually is supposed to look. So this I just kind of pinned. I had to take it off my shoulder to make sure that I had the right length, then tried it back on just to make sure it sat right, and laid it flat to measure how much I had taken up on the strap. So then I needed to figure out how I wanted to actually attach the strap to the dress. I could have just folded it, but I thought that would make it bulky. So this dress has the straps hidden in the top facing, and so I cut the threads that was attaching the strap to the facing on the back of the dress and pulled out the strap, and then cut about 2 inches off of the strap because I wanted this strap to be 3 inches shorter, and so I figured I could tuck in about 1 inch and fortify the top of the dress. So it's a little difficult to see, but I'm putting the strap back in the hole of the facing that I just cut it off and pinning all the way through. The original stitch of this dress was hidden inside of this facing, but my stitches are going to have to be on the outside, and that's why I chose to do it on the back. So I'm repeating the same process on the other strap, and you can see here how I tucked the strap back into the facing and how I pinned it to sew it. I chose a more yellow colored thread because this garment had a contrast thread on it, and I thought this matched best. since my seams would be exposed. So I sewed all of those edges down and tried it on, and the fit was great up top, so now I needed to adjust the hem. So I measured where I wanted the hem to be and then used my rotary tool to cut about 2 inches off the bottom. And then I realized that the raw hem actually looked really great, and so I tugged around the skirt to see if it would fray or pull, and it actually did a really cute rolled thing that I really liked for the style of the dress. So I called this dress done.
Okay, so this one is probably not noticeable at all, but the fit is just so much better. It doesn't look like it's really dragging on me anymore. It actually looks like it fits and that it's holding up. And I took a little bit off the length and took the straps up, but I wanted the dress to still be essentially the same shape. But when I cut off the bottom, I actually had this one little piece, so I'm thinking I could do a belt situation like this, and it would just be even cuter and have even more versatility. So it still looks like it goes with the dress, like it's a cute little sash, but it just gives it another kind of wear, and I love it, and I'm super excited to wear it to the beach this year. So let's keep flipping. Okay, you have seen this dress a few times really in the past couple of weeks because I just thrifted it, but I've been wanting one of those sheer overlay dresses, and I think that this will be such a fun way to do one of those but still with the top underneath. So I'm going to cut out this bottom layer, but I'm going to make a skirt out of this so that I can do this full dress look too. I'm really excited because I've been wanting one of these forever, so let's do it.
Oh, I'm so excited. So to cut this piece out of the bottom of this dress, I wanted to cut as close to the seam as possible so you couldn't see any of the skirt part from the top under the sheer. And so I just cut maybe a little less than 1/8 of an inch. I also didn't want to hem this part, and so I'm just going to put fray check on it eventually, but I don't currently have any fray check. So I just cut around the whole skirt and then around the zipper too, so I wouldn't have to adjust the zipper. And that basically completed the top part because I just wanted it to be sheer, but we are not about to waste that extra fabric from the skirt. I'm going to make a skirt out of it. So first we have to sew up the section where I cut out the zipper in the back. So I'm laying that flat and pinning it up, and then just doing a straight stitch taper down to the edge. And then to finish my seam, I did a zigzag stitch right along the edge of this fabric. And is it really a well-loved thrift flip without an elastic waistband? So we are going to put elastic into this waist, but I also wanted to make the skirt just a little bit shorter. So I cut off about 1 inch at the waistband and then created a casing for my elastic, which is essentially a rolled hem. So I folded the top of the skirt towards the inside with the raw edges about 1/2 inch and then 3/4 of an inch because I'm using 1/2 inch thick elastic, so I wanted to have enough space to push through. So once I have those rolled and pinned down, I used a slight zigzag stitch so it'll have a little stretch to it and you won't pop the seams when you're trying to stretch this fabric. So I sewed that down with my little zigzag stitch and left about a 2-inch casing for my elastic to push through, and then measured my elastic around my waist until it was comfortable, and then used the safety pin technique that I have used so many times where I put the elastic on a safety pin and scrunch it all the way around that skirt. When it comes out the other side, I'm going to sew the elastic together with this little X and box situation, and then sew the hole I left open for the casing down. And this whole dress skirt combo is done.
I'm just in love with this. This is exactly what I was hoping would come out of it. And it was such an easy just chop out this bottom layer, and I tried to chop it as close as I could to this seam so that it just wouldn't show here, and it's really great. I'm very surprised by how simply that went, but I did change the bottom piece into a skirt so I can still wear it as a dress. So let's do this.
Get to making with jive boy.
So cute, and I kind of love that now that it's a skirt under here, it leaves that little piece of skin underneath, so then it kind of acts like a top and bottom cutout situation, and I think it's just so precious. I love that I can still wear it as a dress, but also have that overlay piece. So thrift flipping a piece to just be even more versatile is one of my favorite things. And yeah, I'm so excited that it's hard to read, but let's continue flipping.
If you want some never, just let me know.
love these pants. I've had them for a while, and recently I've just been safety pinning them whenever I want to wear them, but they are definitely just a little bit too big. They're supposed to be kind of paper baggy, and so they have a tie that goes around them, but I just want them to fit like good trousers. And so yes, we are going to do basically the exact same thing that we did earlier on the denim pants. The little darts in the back right here. So let's do it.
Okay, this is going to be very similar to the denim, but a little bit different. So let's grab that chunk of fabric on the front. We can actually pin straight through this one, which is great. So once I have my amount that I want to take in pinned from the front, I'm going to lay it flat and measure out how much fabric I pinned up, and then flip them inside out so we can create the darts on the back again. The thing that makes these pants a little different is that there are pleats on the back, and so I have to keep in mind where I'm going to put this pleat that I'm creating so it won't mess up the pleat that's there. So I used a pin to mark where the pleat ends on the outside of these pants, and I'm using that as a side marker for this pleat that I'm creating. I'm basically trying to create a box pleat where the two edges of that pleat face each other. I've said pleat a lot, but it's gonna keep happening. So I know I need to take in 4 inches total. So I'm taking in 2 inches from either side and measuring 1 inch from the pin where I had it on the pleat. I also am not pinning this down to the edge like I did with the last dart. I want it to only be sewn on the waistband, and so I marked all of that with pins, and then I tossed them on to make sure that they would fit the way I wanted them to, and that all the pins were in the right place. And once they were, I took it to my sewing machine and sewed just that waistband, making sure to match up my top and bottom waistband seams, and these pants are done.
Oh, it just feels so good to put on a pair of pants that fit exactly like I want them to. These big billowy legs and this super fitted high waist is just my favorite thing. So I did essentially the same thing I did with the denim, but these had a pleat at the back, and so I had to kind of match up pleats in a different way. But I love how they turned out, and they just make me feel so good and so confident, and I love the color of them. I'm really loving it with this monochrome orange look too. Very cute. So let's move on to the next thrift flip. This dress is just so precious. I love all of the seam details on it, but you can't really tell that it has it because it's just a little bit too big for me. And so I'm thinking if I put a piece of elastic across the back on the inside, then it'll tighten it up a good bit. But the waist is also a little long, so I'm thinking that I might like the fit better if I took this up and took it in on the sides, because then it would be a little bit more what I think was like naturally intended for this dress. But there's just a lot of ways I could do this, and I think I'm gonna do the second one. So let's make this one fit me a little better.
Okay, I've never taken apart a dress like this before, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I think we can do it. So I'm marking where I want the actual waistband to be, because I first need to figure out where the waistband is so that I can fit it after I get that done. I need to now mark across the whole dress where I'm going to cut, so I want that to be about a 1/2 inch below where the pin is for seam allowance. So I'm using tailor's chalk to just mark all the way along that dress, about every 3 or 4 inches, just to make sure I stay along the same line. And once I have that completely marked out, I'm using my rotary tool to make a nice straight cut across this dress. I also needed to take about 1 inch off of the skirt because I wanted the buttonholes to match, and I needed to get rid of the existing buttonhole. So I cut about a 1/2 inch below the waistband with my rotary tool and can now start reassembling the pieces with the new waistband. So I laid the skirt as flat as possible and then matched up every seam that I could first by laying the seams on top of each other and putting a pin vertically through the seam and horizontally along the edge. This matched up so perfectly and made me so happy. So I pinned in between all of the stitching pins and took it to my sewing machine and did one long straight stitch along the new waistband. I finished the edge of this stitch with a zigzag stitch and then tried it on to see how best I could fit this dress. I figured doing a couple of seams along the back, leaving the edges open, not doing darts, would be a really cute way to maybe add some pleated detail to the back. So I marked where I wanted those stitches, measured how much fabric I took out, matched them up on either side, and sewed some darts into the back. Oh my gosh, this is turning out so cute and I can't wait to show you. But before I do, I had to take off every button and just re-sew it. The thread that was used on it before was just not great thread, and I didn't want it to pop open while wearing it, so I did that and put snaps where the button used to be, and this dress is done!
can tell the difference, but I can definitely tell the difference of how it fits on me. So I took this waist up and I took it in a good bit at the back and put these really cute little darts back here. This is a super simple way to just take in a piece when you have some extra fabric at the back. And so I did that, left those little darts, and I think it gives it a cute little shape in the back too, but it just fits so much better, and I'm so glad I took the waist up. Also, super fun little side note thing, I just made the distance that I cut the same distance as the rest of the buttons, so I wouldn't have to sew a button back on here. And so it took a little bit of work off, but I did do a couple of snaps inside of here. You saw all of it, so that's just kind of how it went, but it fits so cute now, and I feel so good in it. I'm probably just gonna wear this for the rest of the day because it's really adorable. So those are all of the flips that I have for you today. Just some little things to get your brain buzzing, to maybe see how you can thrift and update some stuff that needs a little bit of love, or how to update some stuff that you already own. So thank you so much for flipping with me today, and I will see you next week. You are well loved. Bye!